Hey everybody, and welcome to this AMA. So my name is Kevin Murcko. Still, I'm the CEO and founder at Coinmetro. This is called an AMA for a reason. You ask, I answer. Ask me anything literally means ask me anything. I try to spend more time on things that have something to do with the market or Coinmetro in general, but I do answer pretty much everything unless I miss it or YouTube kills it or whatever. But here we are. I'm going to jump right into the questions because that's what I'm here to do. Let's get started. If you notice that a question wasn't answered, I didn't skip it. I didn't see it. So just ask it again and I'll get to it. I promise. Here we go. So first up from Christopher, big update in October, I thought, is it still coming? So it is only the 17th. I'll throw that out there first. If you're a shareholder and you're in our shareholder chat on Telegram, you already got a bit of information in relation to this. I'll give you something high level right now. Obviously, if I trigger something and you want to ask some more questions, Christopher, or anybody else, have at it. So, one of the most difficult things I've been asked a few times, not necessarily about crypto, but just, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, what's the most difficult thing you've faced? And, there's a long list of difficult things, depending on, regardless of what kind of business you have. And I've had many businesses, not just in the financial sector, but hiring the right people, getting the right people and putting them in the right place is always one of the hardest things to do. And what I will say about crypto is that while the entire world, not the entire world, but a lot of the outside world seems to think that crypto is a scam, point blank, they can't really give you a reason as to why, but they'll say pyramid scheme, or they'll say scam, or they'll say whatever. In reality, there's no such thing as a crypto scam, right? There's just scams that use crypto potentially, just like they've used bank wires and cash and whatever in the past. But I've never worked in an industry where, or I should say a market, maybe not just an industry, where there are so many multifaceted approaches to how individuals will try to take advantage of businesses in this sector. And I definitely learned a new lesson over the past few months in that light. And so there have been some changes in Coinmetro behind the scenes that have altered our timeline a little bit. I hate saying that, and I'm sure everybody hates hearing it. I'm tired of saying it, to be honest. I think, I probably come off in a much different aspect. So what you see is not necessarily what's going on in here, I guess is what I should say. I try to remain calm, cool, collected, make a joke here and there, but I got to tell you that internally, over the past month or so, after finding out certain things that were happening in the business that were hidden to the C-suite, myself included, I don't really have a word to describe what I felt. What I will say is that the quote unquote, let's say October surprise, we'll take from US politics, we had to pivot a few things. However, we are still going to be releasing a large portion of what we wanted to release in Q4. We are about 2 to 4 weeks behind schedule when it comes to certain aspects of the plan, many of those that are much more visible to you. So tech debt is behind schedule, but not necessarily that far behind schedule. Though pieces of the new tech that would remove the tech debt won't be necessarily used by you, the public, for a bit more time because of certain issues internally that have now been remedied. So there will be an announcement towards the end of this month about some things, some that you might not be too, excited about, others that you very well may be. What I can say is that two big things, USD Swift deposits, 4 to 6 weeks from now, we're going to see those go live on the platform. And that's something that the whole team is currently working on. We're also looking at a new deposit flow, which will eventually include DCA options in Google and Apple Pay. The first version of that, 4 to 6 weeks as well from now. And we also have, which is maybe not that exciting to everybody, coming up, is going to be towards the end of October, if not inside of October, a new marketing website. Now, I know we've done, I don't know how many different websites, but this one was made based on the narrative that we actually sell, what we're really good at, and it's also very much primed for SEO. And so while we've been obviously fine tuning the current website for SEO, this one is kind of primed and ready to go to make sure that we get the best results possible for what we're really good at, what we're here and what we get feedback from people in terms of, what we kind of hit out of the park. I'm definitely going to answer more about this throughout the hour, I imagine. So I'm going to leave it here, Christopher, but feel free to ask more questions. Good evening from the UK. Hey, Jack, good evening. Can discuss if DYDX will be a native chain to withdraw and deposit. ERC20 is very complicated to keep swapping. So what I'll say here is that at the end of the day, supporting additional layer 2s or native chains or whatever, different options outside of ERC20 is a goal. One of the ways we get there is by one of the next steps we're going to be taking through the month of October and into mid-November, which is removing a ton of pairs that we have in the exchange with no volume and concentrating on stable pairs for most assets, and then fiats for majors and also fiats for stables. Doing that will then allow us to focus more on native chains as well as layer 2s, so that you have other options other than just Ethereum in some cases. Will there be an exchange upgrade design? So there's been a lot of work done, which has now been changed a bit in terms of our launch schedule, but for a new app experience. And there is now focus as well on revamping our web app experience. Both of those combined will give you a new exchange experience at the end of the day. For features on the chart, I think you might have mentioned something else here. There's also something about exchange design. So let me just scroll down here real quick. Something about orders being filled, etc. So Jack, we do have a feedback channel on Telegram, but it was created by somebody that has a deleted account, right? So I'm just waiting to get a potential green light. I should backtrack a bit and say that one of the major changes that has happened since our previous CTO exited is that we've brought on a delivery manager, somebody with extensive experience in making sure tech teams deliver. It's not necessarily from the people management side, though that is a part of it. It's much more about processes and being able to make sure that the tech team works on only things they're supposed to work on. They're not getting sidetracked because they get a Slack message or an email at midnight. Oh man, I really need this to get done, when in fact it's not a priority for the business. And everything is placed in Jira, which is a tool that we use. We have used, but now prioritization to have it done through Jira. No Slack, threads, no other pieces of software being used to organize. And we now have all of our workflows for tech in 2 or 3 specific boards. So we have this maintenance board, which is all about problems that may occur, bugs, etc., and they're prioritized there. And there's a team that specifically sits on that board. And then there's, projects, so new stuff. And that has brought us into getting back into, I think it's been a while. It's been probably 2 years since, maybe even longer, since we even dealt with sprints. Now we're back on a sprint schedule. We had our first sprint successfully completed about a week and a half ago, I believe, which was only a 1-week sprint. Now we're jumping into 2-week sprints. The team is remotivated in tech. The team generally in Coinmetro since the beginning of the year has been ultra motivated, but tech slowly but surely became less than motivated for a variety of reasons. If you're a shareholder, you know some of them already. But this process and the way that the processes are now managed, and the fact that we're actually sticking to this, the promises made to the tech team, has now, I believe, what I see from my lens is that they are remotivated. They're starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's super important to make sure we get stuff done on time and that we can actually push new things out to market. So now I'll backtrack to where I was. So this feedback channel, I'm waiting to get a go ahead from the person who manages the maintenance board that we can add in potentially this additional channel. Now, understand, though, that the best place you can always go when you have feedback is support, because support has a direct line to Jira, meaning if you go to support and say, man, I'd love to see these features, you give them a bullet list, they will take a look at it and they will put it onto that maintenance board. And then the person managing that maintenance board in Jira will go ahead and prioritize it. And the good news is even if it's not prioritized, there is actually an actionable backlog. And so it will get done at some point, and support will have direct access to be able to see where it is at all times through that same maintenance board. Sounds like small things, but it's not in the grand scheme of things. Did the fiat on-ramp SEPA new details? Yes, a long time ago they went live. It's Malta. And it is just as fast and furious. So it is SEPA instant. I use it myself. And generally speaking, it's quick. It's within minutes of submission. Obviously, if it's a larger transfer, sometimes we have to move, actually, in most cases, we don't have to move assets. That does happen, though. We've gotten pretty good at forecasting what we need to have in terms of cash on hand. But what can happen is that it needs secondary approval. It goes through fraud checks, whatever, and that can take some minutes. But generally, it's just as quick as it's always been. Render token, this is from JWH. Render token has now mostly moved from Ethereum to Solana. Will the Solana version be available? Again, our aim is to support all these things. Understand that sometimes, the tech team definitely doesn't hear about this news. Tech team is not necessarily having their ear to the ground when it comes to changes in chains and crypto specific news in general. They're too busy working on stuff for us in the back end and the front end, etc. So, but we do have obviously research teams that may pick this stuff up, but doesn't mean they pick up everything. So the more communicative you are with us, whether that's in Telegram, or direct via support, we'll get it into a backlog and we'll definitely make sure that there are eyes on it. And that's the best way to do so. And again, I am communicating to see if we can launch this Telegram group again, but I'll repeat, support is always the best option for these type of things. Okay, so I think I already answered this essentially, Jack. And yep, this is something, this isn't, having native chains, depositable withdrawals, layer 2s, etc. We get why it's important to users. At the same time, right now where the business is, we need to make sure that we put the business first. Now, that's not to say that we don't always put our clients first, because we do. Anything we do in the business, we try to give the best possible experience to the end user. We also try to give the best possible pricing, etc. At the same time, though, if it's going, for instance, I'll give you a for instance, right? We have obviously priorities within the business. They're here. And then we have, there's a new, layer 2 option, or we're listing something that has, 2 layer 2s and it also has a native chain. So we decided to do the native chain. Yeah. And then there's a couple of the layer 2s, or maybe we do Ethereum and there's layer 2 options, whatever. And we know that it's going to take 3 weeks of dev time for one dev to be able to get this live. And what we see is that there's only been 67 clients that have interacted with this chain, versus taking those 3 weeks, integrating a new liquidity provider that eventually can provide additional depth, or potentially integrating a new USD provider. And so the good news is, other good news, I should say, is that we've already hired one new backend and one new mobile. We're looking for 2 additional backend devs. Those 2 new devs start on this coming Monday. And with the new processes, et cetera, it'll be easier to onboard them. And they should get cracking on new stuff almost immediately. So that is some good news. So that also means the more backlog we have, the better, because we have things to throw at newbies. Why? Well, because things that are tied more into our old code, we can't really just toss somebody new in there because they need to get familiar with the code, but we can definitely toss them into something new. So backlog is important here. Hey, Kevin, looking extra bald, extra Steve Jobs today. All right, no turtleneck, but and not quite clean shaven. But yeah. I guess trying to get my Steve Jobs on, I guess. I wasn't an asshole today, I don't think, internally. Maybe I was. I don't know. How do I become a shareholder? Hey, Ahmed, well, you buy shares, I guess. That's usually how you become a shareholder. If you are interested, then you can go ahead and DM me at Kevin Murcko on Telegram or on Twitter or X. I still like to call it Twitter. I think everybody does. Like, I don't know what you do on X, if you X a post or what you, I don't know. It's confusing. So Twitter it is. Andres. Hi, we need Euro stable for exchange and margin collateral. When? Yeah, that's a good question. We've been looking at a lot of Euro stables over the course. Haven't really found one that made so much sense. At the end of the day, the reason why stable coins are as big as they are, especially something like Tether, is more about settlement than it is, payments, etc. And so, but the reason why USD then is that big, because most of the world settles in USD. So the Euro stable coins have always remained smaller. Obviously, Tether has a Euro stable coin now, and there are some other competitors. We've talked to a few of them. I do think I talked a little bit earlier about reducing the amount of pairs, about making sure that we hone in and kind of have pairs that make sense, consolidate volume and liquidity, etc. One of the next steps after that is to introduce more than likely a euro stablecoin. If you have a suggestion on what you'd like to see in terms of euro stablecoins, please let us know either via support, best option, or let us know in Telegram, and we'll take that into account. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. Are you degen gambling in the DeFi shitcoin casino? No, I'm not. I generally will look at something and be like, it's probably going to do well, but I don't put money in it. I don't really know why that is. I guess what I'd like to say is that it's probably because I know that it is literally a shit coin and it has no real use case, and I kind of feel ridiculous about putting money into it. The other side of that is, generally speaking, I think aside from, let me think here. No, you know what? I don't think I've ever purchased an asset in crypto since Coinmetro is launched that wasn't available on Coinmetro's exchange, and I did so through Coinmetro. So I limit I guess it's a way for me to constantly try and push our internal teams to get new gems listed, because I myself will see something and want to trade it, but will restrict myself to do so if it's not listed with us. Just a way to kind of put some fire under my feet, I guess, in general. Did you sell your house yet? And will you be buying my, hey, Lou? No, not yet. If you're interested, I'd really like to close the transaction. So I've had someone interested for a few months. Let's just say they dragged their feet. And so anyway, more listings are coming. So hopefully within the short term here before the end of the year, it'll finally get closed. What a cliffhanger. What's so bad in the biz that made it the glorious Kevin angry? Well, I know you guys don't see me angry. Why would you, right? Why would I be angry at you guys? You're our clients. You're our potential clients. You're our, we're here for you, right? I can't get angry at you guys. And I guess even then, angry Kevin is probably more like frustrated Kevin, really. It's not, I don't go into tirades. I'm not Steve Jobs. I don't nitpick. I don't think. Maybe I do on certain things, but only when I really need to. But it gets to a level of frustration sometimes because, and it comes back on me regardless. I am the CEO here, so regardless of what happens in the business, it's on me. And, sometimes I forget. You get into a mode where you forget you have to remind people of certain things. Like, my door is always open. If there's an issue in the business, even if that issue isn't directly related to me, please come and tell me about it if it doesn't get solved. Because if I don't know it exists, then I don't plan around it, for it, etc. And so it's ultra important that communication that happens within the business makes its way up to the business, the C-suite, the decision makers. Now, obviously, if you tell your direct boss, you're going to assume that it gets there. But if change doesn't happen, you should assume it hasn't. And maybe it did, and we've just been failing. That also could be a possibility. But so just frustration, man. It's frustrated, Kevin, I guess. And it's just about, I know, we have amazing people, and I want to make sure that these people know that I'm here to support them because they're here supporting me and my business and my dream and my vision. And so obviously I'm here to support them. And if we support each other, we have success. If we don't, we get stuck in a circle, and, running around a circle gets tedious. No, nothing like that. That would just be an immediate firing somebody. That's easy. Not that firing people is easy or pleasant or anything, but yeah, if we caught somebody doing that, wouldn't be a hard decision. Definitely wouldn't take any time. That's for sure. Explain us tech debt, please, in current financial situation. For example, last month, how bad is it? So I don't get the, for example, last month, how bad is it? Because I don't know what you're referring to. But so explain us tech debt. So for those who don't know what tech debt means, because it is a bit of a misnomer. But anyway, tech debt at the end of the day simply means you build your fintech or your company, your technology. Even if you don't have a technology-based company, you have technology somewhere, you have a website, you have something. So obviously you're building on some type of tech stack, some type of underlying infrastructure. And at some point that underlying infrastructure becomes old. Just like if you buy a computer and 6 months later there's a new computer, and then 6 months after that there's some new technology, etc. So imagine, you buy a server based on, I don't know, Windows 95 when it's brand new, and you never do an upgrade. You never go through a Windows update. And now Windows 12 is coming out and you never upgraded. And now something that you need to work with doesn't work with your old system because you have tech debt. Now that's a relatively really high level way to explain it. And there's a lot more intricate details to deal with tech debt. It also comes from having systems that are integrated, that are closely integrated, kind of like a spider web. So if you imagine a spider web, if there was a bell on one corner of the spider web and you touch the exact opposite corner, that bell is still going to ring. Even though you're nowhere near that bell, right? That's what the spider web is literally made to do. So when prey hits the web, the spider knows where to go. Now imagine though that is software. So let's say all the way up in the right-hand corner where that bell was, I don't know, it's a calculator. And then all the way down in the end, it's a mapping system. But somehow when someone uses the mapping system, it affects the calculator. And then no one understands why. Why don't they understand why? Well, maybe the system was created with not enough documentation. Maybe the person that created the system is no longer with you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what the current situation is, we had a plan to launch a new product, which is essentially a mobile app that would reduce probably like 60% of the tech debt right out the gate. Why? A lot of the tech debt is tied to our onboarding process and things that are tied to the onboarding process. A lot of it's tied to our payment infrastructure. And a good amount of it's also tied to just APIs and kind of our trading engine. And by creating a new back and front end for a new app, we would be recoding all those major pieces. So that's where we were. Right now, we got some information, not right now, but recently got some information that where we thought we were. And when I say we, I mean the business. And when I say the business, I mean the people at the top of the food chain, C-suite, myself and the other executives. We got blindsided by a piece of information that we did not know were there because we simply were never communicated these things. That has caused us to make a few changes and pivots and has put us about 4 to 6 weeks behind schedule. It's going to change a bit how we launch this new and reduce the tech debt. The good news is we didn't lose work. All the work we did will simply get transposed into the current app, but it will take a bit longer in the end to release everything we wanted to release. So it's not doom and gloom. It's just internal frustration. And it's me trying to, I've had to take a lot of mea culpas at Coinmetro, and some of them were well-deserved. I could even say, with all fair honesty, a lot of them, most of them were deserved. But there's been a few times where, because of the fault of one or some really ridiculous reason, we've had to kind of take a collective mea culpa, or I've had to, and it's painful. It hurts. It hurts because there are really great people here that all have their eyes on the prize, that want to do the right thing, that are pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure that this business thrives like it should. And, one little kink in the chain causes another delay. Another time we have to go and say, we're not going to hit that deadline. And it's soul crushing, to be honest. I guess that's a good way to describe it. It's soul crushing. However, I have really thick skin and my soul has been crushed enough where it's, armor plated at this point. So I'm going to continue pushing with some renewed vigor because I see that there are things that maybe I can effectuate change on that I thought maybe I didn't have to. So I think that covers maybe the tech debt. We had a vision that most of the tech debt would be gone in October, but it would still take us probably till Q2 next year to get rid of, let's say, all the tech debt. Not all of it. You always have a bit of tech debt, but now it looks more like in November, December, we will get rid of a good majority of the tech debt. We've gotten rid of things that are utterly important to the operation of the platform. So that's already a good stride, meaning we had issues, if you guys remember, with the platform going offline, with trades not functioning. It was happening very frequently. And that was a major piece of tech debt, which has now been fixed. To not go into major details, imagine we started building this system modularly, meaning in pieces for a reason, but then over time with one person working on it, it became the spider web, right? Our team has now figured out to a certain extent how to modularize different pieces so they can fix them without affecting the rest of the system, and then kind of replant them back in with new code. Big step. So anyway, there are strides made. When it comes to financial situation, we are still looking at around the end of Q2 as our red zone. And we have now invigorated more talks with for fundraising. That's me, really. And so while, as I told you, I think first week of October, the last time we had an AMA, which was towards the end of September, that I had just started to see a few calls get on my schedule. By the end of the first week of October, I was seeing about 3 calls a week. Second week of October, I had a call a day. This week into next week looks like somewhere between 1.5 calls a day. So slowly but surely getting to the point where we're starting to talk to more people. New pitch decks going out next week. We also have a few soft launches we're doing internally, which will help us with AUM, et cetera, which is something that these investors look for. So, like I said, me being frustrated is probably not a bad thing. I don't want you guys to be frustrated, and I know you are going to be frustrated for a bit longer, and that doesn't make me happy. But I can tell you that we will continue to push, and it's as simple as that. I'm going to make this work, is what I'm trying to say. Moving pairs, would any of them be because coins currently with staking options on Coinmetro? Would any of them be of coins? No, we're not. No, if there's a staking option and it's active, we wouldn't remove all pairs. That would be ridiculous, because then obviously someone won't be able to exit, right? But for example, if there is a pair that has staking but has four pairs currently, let's say, versus USD versus Euro versus Pound versus, I don't know, whatever. Most assets will go down to just USDT or USDC pairings. And then obviously there will be a stable pair versus the different fiats, and majors will have fiats. And companies that we list that we have specific contractual relationships with that require us to have fiat pairs. Yeah, or not. Probably not, actually. Might even make it worse, I think. Yeah, I don't think that's not a good plan, Lou. I'm going to scratch that one off. Not that I had it in my list, but if I did, I would scratch it off. What's the current run rate, and how can that be sustained? So yeah, run rate. Well, our run rate right now, let's say our burn rate, I'll start there, is roughly about $350 a month. And yeah, we have between 2 and 3 million in funds available to us. Now, some of that, I would say about 20% roughly sits in crypto. And that's at the low is what, well, not at the low, at the most recent low puts us right around 2 to 3, like 2.4, 2.5, somewhere there. Over the next 6 months, if those assets do well, then, there'll be some extension there. Our ability to increase AUM on some of these soft launch products, we have the opportunity to make yield. The company does. Obviously, the end user does as well. That will help us reduce the burn. We've already seen, I should say, our revenue start to grow from the bottom where they were. So revenue, we believe, during Q4 will match our burn rate. So obviously, that's going to extend the run as well. We're fundraising, and fundraising starting to pick up. So again, we expect that to move. I would say that by February or March of this year, my goal is to have at least 1 to 1.5 years in the bank, but at the same time, generally be sustainable at that point. So having 1 and 1.5 years worth of potential runway, but not necessarily needing to use it to sustain the company. Stake it. So we just soft launched one. It'll be hard launched probably within the next 30 to 60 days. And there'll be another soft launch within the next 30 days, which again will roll out 30 to 60 days. So there will be some exciting new staking offers before the end of the year publicly. Lex, is that me? Am I Lex? All right. Superman coin. Probably not. I don't know. I never heard of the Superman coin. I can't believe I haven't heard of Superman. That's ridiculous. Is XAM at 60 cents still achievable? If yes, what is your realistic prediction for next year? So yeah, I think if the business is functioning, the market is moving, and we are actually pushing new things to market, stabilizing our systems, and generally delivering what we promise, absolutely. 60 cents and well above that are well within the possibility, even within 2025. Absolutely. You know, it's hard for me to say, and I know, it's hard to say because there's been so much good stuff that we've done. Unfortunately, it's been clouded by some of the failures. And a lot of those failures have been with us being overly optimistic because business decisions were based on information given to the business. And I mean the business again, management, that simply wasn't realistic. And part of that was me being just too open sometimes with the community, and kind of as soon as I got a piece of data, I was ready to share it, happy, running to Telegram to share that piece of information. And I probably shouldn't have done that, hindsight being 2020. I'm sure Harold will tell me I told you so on that one, but I felt, and in some ways I still feel, but I felt that was the way I would like to see a company that I was invested in treat me as an investor, whether that be a token holder where maybe I didn't actually invest in the company, but I was invested some way, shape, or form in the eventual success of that business. And so what we're doing now is retooling to make sure we have the processes in place. We don't overpromise. We deliver on what we say we're going to deliver. I was told, I believe, and I'm not quoting this verbatim, but our new delivery manager in tech told me, we have a plan so that you can stop eating shit sandwiches and you can actually drink some bubbles, I think was how he said it. So I'm going from shit to champagne, and I'm taking you all with me, I guess is what I was told. And I'm happy to hear it. Are there any open roles at current? Yes, there are. Devs, generally speaking, two back-end devs. Doesn't mean, we like talented people. So if you're talented and we think we can use you, there's probably a role. Hey, Kevin, not checked in for a while. Sorry to hear you sounding so pissed off. What's this ominous activity at Coinmetro? It's not ominous. I can't go into specific details. I guess you can probably read between the lines, but I guess, I was lied to by a particular person that's no longer with us. Okay. I was just lied to, and I wasn't just me that was lied to. The business was lied to, and yeah, it derailed what we thought was going to be an amazing quarter. I still think it's going to be a good quarter for us, but it could have been amazing, and it just shows that, as I said a million times, if you have the right people in the right places, things are easy. When you don't, things ain't easy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, volume is looking better, which is a big silver lining. That's for sure. And I expect it to look better and better as we move through October, November, December, for sure. So that's good. Regardless of what we do, volume is going to look better. Greetings from Ireland, Kevin. Hey, Mr. A. Do you see Bitcoin in the 200K range next year? Excited to see how next year goes. My alts are ready. So if I'm looking at the, previous 4-year cycles, I think in the last cycle, we saw a 3.5x, if I'm not mistaken. And generally speaking, we've seen less and less multipliers each cycle. I think before 3.5, we might have saw 5, 5.5, 6, somewhere in there. I have the details somewhere, but off the top of my head. So I think, we're probably going to see somewhere between 1.5 to a 2.5x on Bitcoin if we follow the similar cycle. Now, ETFs not having maybe all the profits initially flow into alts, and then alts exploding, profit flowing back into Bitcoin, etc., may keep us on the lower end of that expectation. And why do I say that? Well, generally bear market looks like this. Q4, that would be now. Q1, amazing. Q2, Q3, lull. Q4 next year, amazing. Q1, amazing. Drop off. Bear market, right? That's your traditional cycle. And generally speaking, you see Q4, Q1, profits taken on Bitcoin, lull. Money starts flowing into alts, into Q3 sometimes, but into Q4, into Q1, explosion of alts. And towards right before capitulation, push back into Bitcoin. Bitcoin hits all-time high, last profit taking, people buy Lambos, right? It's the general idea. Now, as we know, with people that put Bitcoin into, or boomers, as everybody likes to call them, who put money into an ETF, aren't going to be pulling out the money out of the ETF more than likely and throwing it into alts, because it's going to be in their bank account or on a brokerage account, and the brokerage isn't buying, Tramp and Bowden coins or whatever. I don't know if it's Tramp. It's not Trump, right? It's Tramp. I don't know. Anyway, so they're not buying meme coins, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Now that doesn't mean that that's still not going to happen, because there will be an influx of retail money. We haven't really seen that yet. Now it is still, well, we're past the hump in October, so we're more than midway through, but still we haven't seen that yet. I still expect to see that to a certain extent. So if we're talking about a 1.5x on average, we would see about $110,000, $120,000 Bitcoin. If it's a 2.5x, then your 200K range is going to get within striking distance. I think, judging where we are toward the tail end of Q1 next year, is going to give us a pretty good insight into where potentially will be Q1 in the following year. Just get rid of die pairs; they're dead weight. Appreciate that. Thank you. What is the most bullish Coinmetro news? Throw us a bone, something we don't know yet. Not an old soon. Hey, Bacon Heist. I think you already asked the question, but hey. So, I mean, like it or not, I think the best news is that one of the main reasons why we've had, backtrack a little bit, the reasons why we've seen things that look very similar outwardly, not hitting deadlines, etc., in the past, have always been varied. Even though the result ended up being the same, the what actually happened behind the scenes was never 100% the same. And each time that was a learning, it was a learning curve there. The team learned, team changed, etc. And every time there was a blockade, whether that blockade was compliance, whether that blockade was legal, whether that blockade was marketing, whether that blockade was tech, whether that blockade was product, whatever it was, right? The last blockade has been tech recently. And because there were never really any processes in tech. There were processes, but that were never really, really enforced. And that's changed. That to me is huge news. And you guys are going to feel that news relatively shortly in the future. When it comes to kind of, I don't know, really good news at Coinmetro, there's always a lot of things. I don't want to make it seem like there isn't, because there always is. There's always things that bring a smile on my face. Getting USD back on the platform, it's going to be a big thing for sure for us. It's probably going to increase our revenues by 50%, almost, I would say instantly, not really instantly, but within a few weeks, we're going to see a 50% increase in revenues because of that. That's some big news. That also allows us to attract different users that otherwise don't use euro, they don't use pounds, etc. The buy crypto flow, this whole idea, this new kind of swap widget, which leads to DCA, which leads to Apple Pay and Google Pay, is a big thing. It removes some tech debt, which is great. And it also allows us to move forward with different projects as well that are tied to that. So a lot of the work that's going on behind the scenes is big. You'll feel it when you see it. You'll feel it. We've also, been continually fine-tuning the team, and behind the scenes, it's always getting better, not worse. So that's also big news for me. On the fundraising front, because of the way that crypto has been changing, so people are becoming regulated now. Maybe not everybody, but that's becoming a thing. But as these businesses get bigger, their user experience tends to get shittier. And so this idea of focusing still on users is actually something that VCs and funds, et cetera, really want to hear. They're all in on that, because now, 2 years ago, a year ago even, but definitely 2-3 years ago or more, most of those funds that are investing in crypto never really dealt in crypto. They had the, nerdy guy on the team that would give them some feedback, but that guy was DeFi'd in, and he didn't really care about a bad UI UX because he was just trying to degen into, Bowden coins, Pepe, whatever. But now that the normie guys inside that fund have started to deal with exchanges, they realize that this is a big thing. This is something that can actually gain market share. So that's also a big thing. I'm going to pop up with something else as I keep talking for sure, but there's a lot of things on the horizon. There has been a lot of things on the horizon, but yeah, sometimes you get hit with things that you do not imagine. It's never not interesting, I guess, here at Coinmetro or in the industry in general. You mentioned a few months ago about XCM airdrop. What's the status on that? XCM airdrop. Tied to, so it wasn't an XCM airdrop that I talked about. I talked about us going down the road of creating a DAO-like structure, which would have an airdrop of DAO-like tokens to XCM holders. I don't really have anything to comment on that right now, other than to say that currently we're focused on other things. But yeah, I didn't mention XCM airdrop, Mohammed. It's definitely not something in the plan. Yuri is one of the first Euro stablecoins compliant with the provisions of the Markets and Crypto Assets Regulation issued by Banking Circle. Okay. So same guys as USDC. Yeah, we've talked to Circle just recently, actually. I didn't remember the name of the asset, but I actually just talked to a stablecoin provider yesterday. Had a pretty long talk. Not necessarily in the market yet, but definitely a different approach, something that's quite interesting. So that maybe in the future we'll be working with them. They actually offer 8 different stable coins in a basket, but we will be supporting some Euro coin at some point. And this very may be the one. Thank you for posting it. I appreciate it. When can we trade CM bonds on CM? Okay, that involves us integrating Ignium, which was on the cards for the end of this year. Now, again, we're focused on things that we feel will bring the best user experience to you guys, but also the best profitability to the company. And that isn't one of them. However, it is vitally important for us to integrate, because we do want to have, it's not about trading bonds, by the way, because the bonds have already expired. It's about trading the equity that you probably converted your bond into. And that is going to be a big piece of Coinmetro in the future. I don't have a date on it. Next month, ask me, and I'll have a date for you, or at least an idea. What's the deal with GotBit MM? So, deal on GotBit. We were testing GotBit, but we tested them the test was very small. We're talking hundreds of euros, I think. Maybe it got into 1,000 euros or something like that. GotBit, however, had signed contracts with some assets directly, and thus had accounts at Coinmetro trading those assets. Since the news, we have disabled GotBit's access to Coinmetro and sent a notice to their legal team from ours requesting some information. And right now, that's where it stands. So there is no activity from GotBit on the Coinmetro exchange. And while we did have an agreement with GotBit that essentially expired, we were only testing, given the fact that they already had accounts with us. We decided to test just to see what they were offering in terms of the amount of time it took to launch an asset, what the book looked like, how they actually managed the book, etc. But we didn't move forward with them directly. And now even indirect, meaning accounts that they own that they were using for listed assets that contracted directly with them, are now shut down. Best guess on social trading to boost volumes. As in, like, what social trading would do? The new idea behind social trading with kind of portfolio rebalancing, copying someone's spot portfolio. Volumes, yes. Profitability as well. Profitability because social trading will use essentially our swap widget. Also will be tied to DCA and profit and portfolio rebalancing, which essentially is rebuys or sells on a frequent basis. So generally speaking, I would say what we would probably see, we would be able to activate clients that otherwise are inactive. Something like staking, which is not necessarily month to month, but over a longer period of time, our second largest revenue source. I would expect social trading to probably outpace staking because, again, it allows us to put people on autopilot, and the portfolios that are most active. If you have one active portfolio, everyone who follows it has an active portfolio. Over time, I would expect it to take a big chunk, 25% or more of our total revenues. To go about volumes is a bit more difficult because, and to be honest, volumes are important, but the reason volumes are important because it ties to revenue. So already gave the runway update. We will remove first pairs that do not have activity on margin. Those that may have open orders, et cetera, on margin will take more time. You will be alerted. You will be given time to get out of those positions. Though, as far as I can remember on the list, it's a very small amount, handful of potential of pairs we would like to delist that have any exposure on margin. How long does it usually take for orders to fill with Coinmetro's volume? I don't even know how to answer this question because I'm not sure what the question is. Are you asking me personally? Like, first of all, it depends on the size of the order, and it's not about volume, then it's about liquidity. Because you can have zero volume, but 5 million sitting in liquidity, which means if you throw an order, it's going to be filled almost immediately once the price hits. So kind of hard to answer that question. But if you want to reword it, have at it. I fixed tech debt in 2 minutes. It's called NPM update. Yeah, no, if it was that easy, it would have been done a long time ago. What language is the code written in? MERN stack, TypeScript, JavaScript, React, more or less. Farsi. Yeah, no, that's not written in Farsi. How does the current client flow look? We had some numbers presented before at new clients churn. How is it currently, good or bad? So we did have an anomaly just recently after a bot attack, which opened up thousands and thousands of accounts that never went through KYC, where we had a major drop off in the amount of emails that were being submitted outside of this attack, and then the ones that made it their way through KYC. So that's been investigated for the past few days. I don't have an immediate update, but outside of that anomaly, we probably hit a low towards summer of last year into the end of last year in terms of client acquisition into the bear market. Coming into May, when Bitcoin made its first hit at an all-time high, it spiked. So we started seeing some of the biggest numbers that we had seen in more than a year. Then a lull hit after that, as did with the rest of the market. And now we're starting to see it pick up again. So all in all, our revenues this year are up about 65% from where they were last year during the bear market. So all in all, it's good news. What we can do, or what we should do, is in either the next day, the AMA that's coming up, or the one that we will have in December. I will make sure I have some slides to share with you guys. So I think December probably makes more sense. We can do a year wrap up and show you guys what things look like. Are we open to taking individual investors in the next fundraiser? If so, briefly, what are the requirements for minimum size? We always are. Look, and that's not necessarily because we're fundraising, we need the money. Because to be honest, I'd much rather have smart money. So even when we're going out to get larger checks, it's really about what someone can offer outside of the money. But I've always said, and I think I always would like to leave every fundraise effort open to anyone who wants to get in, because we're about accessibility. So I want anybody to be able to jump in if they want. I don't want to restrict anybody. Of course, there have to be restrictions, because to issue equity in Estonia, the amount of equity you buy has to be a certain amount. There's share capital in Estonia, not necessarily shares. So company has a certain amount of share capital, and you have to buy at least 1 cent of that share capital, or we can't allocate officially. And so that does put so it depends on the valuation that's being sold, et cetera. I guess the short answer is yes, we would allow individual investors. If you DM me at Kevin Murcko on Telegram, or you can tweet me on X, or X me on X, I don't know. Then we can discuss a little bit, and I can give you some more information. I heard European exchanges have to remove USDT because of MiCA. No, don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to not kill your neighbor. I mean, if you do and they catch you, you're going to go to jail, right? But you don't have to not do it. Having said that, this is completely different, but I figured I'd make a ridiculous analogy because why not? I do that sometimes. So we analyzed MiCA, and looking at it, we decided that it actually wasn't a requirement to remove USDT. USDT has also made some noise saying that they are in the process of making USDT compatible or compliant with MiCA. Now, for us right now, we don't see a reason to delist. If that changes, we will do so. But there are multiple European exchanges that still offer USDT. Is it still the plan to revamp Mars? Yes. And wouldn't it be an idea to end XCM staking already now to reduce sell pressure? So yes. And to your second point, yeah, I guess you're right. It could reduce sell pressure. We did look at this at some point in real time, and most of the revenue not revenue, but things that were paid out from staking were actually not making their way back to the book. Some were for sure. And we don't, it is a bit of a guesswork as well, because you're looking at accounts. You don't really know. I mean, they got something from staking and then they sold something. Would they have, but they had, XCM on balance. So would they have sold anyway is the question, right? But looking at the data, it doesn't look like it's the biggest amount of sell pressure. We had plans initially before recent events that by Q4 XCM Mars revamp would be done. Now, because it's going to be delayed, that is a topic that's going to be picked up probably still within the month of October. So next AMA, I can clarify that for you. But it may be something we do. We didn't want to do it because if we do that, we may actually induce more sell pressure. Why? Because if people have staked XCM to get additional XCM, and then we stop giving XCM and we haven't yet made Mars attractive enough, then they're not getting enough to stake. They may unstake everything, and there may be more sell pressure. Is the recent news to the C-suite legally sensitive? Well, anytime that you have anything to do with an employee, it's legally sensitive. I can't tell you what happened with a specific employee. And even if I could, I would see it in bad taste because it's a private matter. And, if they want to say, they can come and say it, that's up to them. They can open up the Pandora's box, but I'm not going to open it. So, but it is, yeah, I guess you could say it's a legal matter. What exchange volume is needed for break-even daily? It's not just about volume because we don't make the same amount of money on all volume. Some of that volume could, if it's all limit orders, for example, we're not making any money. We might be losing money, actually. If it's a combination of market orders, but with referrals behind them, and I know there's an issue with referrals, so please don't bring that up as being worked on. But you get my point. Just volume doesn't give us that number doesn't mean anything in terms of we've now hit sustainability. But I guess if we can look at the average amount of volume that flows through different channels and I would say we probably need to see 15 to 25 million, somewhere in that range, to hit sustainability. Based on kind of historic numbers of what percentage flows through different products, et cetera. How do you think U.S. elections will affect crypto? It really depends on what happens in U.S. elections, but they absolutely will affect all markets. If the Republican candidate wins, that generally is going to mean about 6 months of bullishness before people tend to check really what's going on in the world. The lead up to the elections will be a lot of volatility. If you see the Democrat win, that's going to probably be a punch to the gut for the markets. Maybe not for 6 months, but definitely a month or two. But potentially in the short term after that, crypto will do better than many other asset classes because it is more of a risk on asset, but it tends to take time to get there. Remember what happened with COVID? It tanked, and then crypto realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm crypto, and then did well. So did everything else eventually, but and so we'll have to see. But I would expect a Republican win from everything I'm seeing, and if we see a Republican win, it should be bullish for the crypto industry in general. What is the ETH staking slider? Why is the ETH staking slider going from 0.01 to 10 million ETH? Please make this realistic for users. I agree. I would ask you to give that over to support, or at least post it in Telegram so it's more visible. But yeah, that shouldn't be the case. In fact, that's got to be a bug, I would imagine. Can you link to your jobs page on the website? Can't find it. On Google, it goes to workable and says you need an AML compliance specialist. Yeah, right now, because those dev positions are not actually posted anywhere, we're using a headhunter. But what you can do is send trying to think of a good email for you. I guess you can push it over to info@coinmetro.com, and then we'll route it wherever it needs to go. So you can put a little cover letter and information about your experience, your CV, etc. Any update on compensation for CV Reflect? You mentioned like a year ago, you already had the XCM. Hey, Charlie. Yeah, we got the XCM at 60 cents. So yeah. And we didn't even get the XCM enough to cover the reimbursement. In fact, we lost a lot of millions of euros because of those trams. The company did. So it's a situation that is unyet resolved. And of course, the previous manager has said they will resolve it, but it has yet to be resolved. So yes, we got an amount of XCM, roughly equivalent to what compensation would be at 60 cents. But on top of that, the company lost millions of euros because of that tram. So still an open situation. Dan Keller from Flux just announced they're going to launch a sex. Any comment? No, I was actually in touch with Daniel just recently because we're looking to do a specific promotion here shortly. I think that's cool. I mean, competition doesn't necessarily, scare me. And I'd like to see, better people run the competition than some of the people that run some of our competitions. So awesome. I think we'll still be working together, and it's cool to see somebody else jump in the game. How much is one share? I also want one share so I can be in the cool club. Well, you can't really buy one share. As I said, it's share capital. So 1 cent of share capital, as you can imagine, would be 1/100th of a percent, or 1/100. Essentially, yeah, what was that? 1%, I guess, or no, 10. It's 100% actually of the value of the valuation that's being sold. So I guess it's probably not the best explanation, but that's what it is. When will we see staking plan that you previously mentioned be implemented? So soft launched already. Paul, if you would like information on the soft launch, or you'd like some to see if you want to take part, just ping me on Telegram and I'll send you over the information. But publicly launched within the next 30 to 60 days. What would you think of revamping Mars or leaving as is instead of paying out XCM for staking? Users stake and all XCM staking rewards could automatically burn instead of being given back to users. We could put that as a poll to see to all XCM stakers and see if there's enough support for it. It's a possibility, sure. Of course, each individual XCM owner can burn XCM. So, but it's an idea. I wouldn't say no to it. Create tech credit. Huh? When will the platform be ready for a large influx of active trading users with all the bugs and trouble tickets? Can you explain what happened with Sam while I left? I can't explain exactly what happened with Sam. No. All I can say is I'm super disappointed and I feel aggrieved. I guess that's what I'll say on that. So the platform as is right now, with the current understanding of how to maintain it, which was lost in the shuffle and was part of that tech debt, it can definitely handle a multiple of what we're currently throwing at it. In terms of bugs and trouble tickets, there are specific things that still need to be fixed. Some have already been modularized on a test environment so that we can fix them, so that we figured out how to do that. So that's also a big step in the right direction. In terms of getting rid of the entire tech debt, it's going to be mid to end of next year. In terms of being ready from many angles to support a larger influx of users, between the end of this year and the beginning of Q1. But even right now, we can support a multiple of what we're currently supporting. Hey, Victor, no problem. Top 10 coins, don't have a list right now. Plus, we're way too close to 60 minutes, man. And I actually got to call them and I have to jump on. And I'm going to probably be a couple minutes late for. Also, stocks, neither. You have to come back with me on that one. Ping me on Telegram. Land in strategic places. That's a kind of more interesting one. Yeah, I guess with the way the world is moving, any amount of land where alternative energy can be sourced is probably going to be a good bet, whether that be wind, water, solar, etc. Hey, Kevin, good to see you. Just saying hi. Appreciate that, man. Thanks, Alexander. All right. I hold on, Victor. Wait. Oh, there. Okay. LLMs. Maybe it's just too late for me today, man, but that one went over my head. So I'm going to have to end it there. We're literally 1 hour and 19 seconds in. So I appreciate everybody's time. I know some of the updates today wasn't what everybody wanted to hear. I will be more active in Telegram, so you can ping me there. I'll try to spend at least a bit of time every day in there, if not every other day from now on. And onwards and upwards, man. We will make this thing work. Even though it may seem we have to take a step back every now and again or take a sidestep, there's still always progress in the background. And we're going to make this thing work collectively. We are going to do it. And it's timing. I think we're still well within the time. I know everybody starts to get freaked out because Bitcoin starts getting close to all-time highs, but altcoins haven't started to move yet. The market really haven't started to get invigorated yet. We still haven't seen it. We'll probably see it during Q4 and into Q1. And we're going to keep continuing the push to make Coinmetro a better place and more active into that time frame. And throughout 2025, I expect a good year for us. And I'll keep you guys updated on all fronts, including fundraising, etc. Thank you very much for being here. Buy some XCM. The price is right, I think. Have a great rest of your Thursday, a great Friday, and a great weekend. Once again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Thanks for being critical. Thanks for being supportive. And I will see you guys around. Cheers, everybody.